Good evening and welcome to Political Lens on Voice of the People Television, VOPTV. We are broadcasting on Metro SLTV channel 264. I am Chukuma Okoro, and this evening we have a lot to talk about. Meanwhile, there is breaking news within the Labour Party. I mean, there's a gale of suspension here and there because the Julius Abure-led faction of the Labour Party some minutes ago, some hours ago, suspended 6 high-profile members of the Labour Party, including Dr. Alex Otti, the only Labour Party governor in Nigeria. Others are Senator Ireti Kingibe, that represents Abuja in the Senate. We have Senator Darlington Wokocha, that is Abia South, yes, representing Abia South. We have Honorable Victor Afam Ogene, he is from Enugu State. We have Honorable Amobi Oga, that represents Isukwato Umunochi Federal Constituency, and Honorable Sheyi Showume. Well, by this suspension, these former members of the party will no longer act for and on behalf of the party. All concerned institutions, including the Nigeria Governors Forum, the National Assembly, the Independent National Electoral Commission, and security agencies, among others, are to take note. And in another breath, we also hear that the Nenadi Usman-led faction committee of the Labour Party has also slammed suspension on Julius Abure and members of the National Executive Committee, National Working Committee of the Labour Party. Oh, well, this is a developing story. We are going to see how all of that pan out in the coming hours, in the coming days, in the coming weeks, and in the coming months. So it looks like clearly that the problems, the internal crisis within the Labour Party is not about being settled, at least not in the immediate. Anyway, that's just about the breaking news. We are going to talk about Nigerians, the presidency attacking Nigerians by saying that those who do not see or doubt the achievements of the president are blind, deaf, and dumb. And this is coming from presidential spokesperson Daniel Bwala. Well, let's bring in our guest as we are joined by Dr. Chukwunonso Ekesiobi. He's an economic consultant and teaches economics at Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu University in Anambra State. He is also a political affairs analyst. Good evening, Dr. Ekesiobi, and thanks for coming to Political Lens. Good to have you, sir.
Nice to be with you again.
All right, thank you very much.
Interesting times we have.
Quite interesting times that we are going through in Nigeria. Well, let's roll into the show right away. Netizens are calling out Daniel Bwala, presidential spokesperson, for what many consider as a collective insult meted out on Nigerians. Bwala on a TV program said that Nigerians claiming that President Bola Tinubu has no tangible achievements since assuming office are either blind, deaf, and dumb. Mr. Bwala, in an interview with a national TV station on Monday night, said that the Tinubu-led government has increased Nigeria's foreign reserves despite paying off a huge debt inherited from his predecessor. According to Bwala, those who say there are no achievements, it is either they are blind, deaf, or dumb. But I'll help them today, said Mr. Bwala when asked to respond to criticisms that Mr. Tinubu has no achievements since he assumed office about 2 years ago. He added, and I quote, "Look at our foreign reserve. You can see how we are having increase. We are increasing the foreign reserve while we are paying the debt on our neck." Mr. Bwala argued that another achievement of Bola Tinubu's government is the increased monthly allocation to states, adding that 27 states were bankrupt and could not pay salaries before Mr. Tinubu assumed office. When the president took oath of office, now this is coming from Daniel Bwala, when the president took oath of office, 27 states of the federation were reported to have gone bankrupt, meaning they could not pay salaries. They virtually could not do anything at all. Today, there is no state that is bankrupt or incapable of paying salaries, Mr. Bwala said. Rather, state governors have gone beyond that to deliver on good governance and projects. Well, he added, a few days ago, we were in Katsina. The governor reaffirmed this same view that before now, governors didn't have enough to pay salaries. Even in PDP states, Enugu and even Abia, they acknowledge that the policies of the president have increased their allocations so they can now deliver on good governance to their people. Fundamentally, that is achievement number one. The president's spokesperson also cited the student loan policy as another achievement of the Tinubu-led government, saying, look at the NEL fund. Now the son of indigent who has dreams cannot have access to funds to fund their education. Mr. Bwala said, These are a few of the many achievements of Mr. President. When they blow the whistle and say, let's go to campaign, we will bring them to the table. They are ascertainable, relatable, and touchable. But Bwala's claims comes barely 2 weeks after the International Monetary Fund, IMF, reported that poverty and food insecurity remain high under Mr. Tinubu's watch. Similarly, the World Bank Africa Pulse report of April 2025 stated that Nigeria under Mr. Tinubu has the highest number of extremely poor people globally. The report also predicted a grim future for Nigeria, warning that many more Nigerians will be plunged into poverty by 2027 under Mr. Tinubu's watch. Oh well, Dr. Ekesobi, you heard the arguments for and against Nigeria's economy, one by the presidential spokesperson, Daniel Bwala, and another by IMF. As an economist, can you help us to understand which of these claims Nigerians should believe based on what you see on ground? Quick one, like your broad reaction to the claim by Daniel Bwala that, look, the president's economic policies are yielding results, and in one breath, IMF and World Bank are telling us that Nigeria is more like the poverty capital of the world. Where do we run to? Who should we believe, left or right?
Well, it depends on the side of the divide you are on. So on the side of government, you see everything the government does as excellent, wonderful, and the side of independent observers, and not necessarily the opposition, we see on a different. Well, when we poverty, it's as if poverty has become like a way of life. I've gotten so acclimatized.
Okay. I'm sorry, doctor, to butt in at this moment. You say it depends on which side we are looking at it, from the government side or from the other side. We want to look at it from your own side as an economist, as a Nigerian who feels what is going on in Nigeria.
As a Nigerian, the data. As a Nigerian, look at it from both sides. One, the data, what is happening around me. Look at the data. I think sometime in 2021 or 2022, I can't remember one now. The Central Bank thought that 75 Nigerians, I think 95 million Nigerians in poverty. Time the government of the under the Buhari administration took up and made all sorts of reborn, trying to position me sure footing. Now later, the National Bureau of Statistics, the data managers of the country now released that I think 6 or about 130 Nigerians were multidimensional. This multidimensional poverty that across various health, sanitation, social services, all whatnot. So that one they did not do. So moving away from what the National Bureau said, sometime later the World Poverty Clock positioned Nigeria overtaking, I think it was India and one other country like that. Now we have a stage where we are debating whether we are poor or experiencing poverty. Opposition raised this issue and they were seen as patriotic and were marketing our own son, the AFP president, similar, that the economy was in a decline and made other gloomy marks. They have all countered that. Now this World Bank, you just reinforced this statement by saying that in that report, by a clearer indication where we are headed, 2027, if addressed, we are going to have, I think, 5% of Nigerians, especially here, living below poverty. They will experience about 40-something percent of Nigerians who are in urban classified as If you go beyond that dimension of poverty, with the male and female is about 63.7 and 63.1% male. If you look at according to the level of, you see that who are those with education are projected about 61 or so of poverty. Because next second education are 50 so. Then those with degree certificates about 20 something percent. If you look at poverty along this dimension, you see that there is a challenge. When the government comes out to say that it has this, it has that is that hand. How are these letting improvement in living in Nigeria? That is bone of contention. Is what we discussed.
Okay.
You reduce debt that we are trying to, that we are what are they even saying again? Because these days we have run out of positions how to defend whatever it is they have achieved. Yes, so she stands now, and then individual economies. If I look at data, then as an individual, poverty is looking all of us in the face.
Okay.
You go to the market. How many people can afford to get something? Nigeria has a very lot of malnourished individuals. Then stop at children under we are having the highest number of children with stunted growth. Sub-Saharan Africa. These are indications that there is hunger in the land. And if you break down this poverty, sorry, I'm going.
No, go ahead, go ahead. We need to break all of these things down. We need to break all of it down, so that Nigerians can actually understand the direction that we are headed.
Yes, if you break down the poverty further, you will see that with poverty in a very range, many Nigerians can hardly afford to eat meals. To talk of 3 square meals, is 1 square. Good is the nourishment, the is that meal. How many Nigerians can afford to feed properly? You can look at the basic meal. Let's just assume how can this meal take care of feeding? So you see that there's a problem of food poverty. To move away from poverty, there's also energy poverty.
Okay.
What is energy poverty? You have to meet your basic energy needs. And energy poverty is very pronounced aspect in households. Why we don't have access to energy, even when you have, it is not affordable. Look at with the increases in move one band to the other, band A, band B, band whatever. So that energy poverty is a crisis. Food is also a crisis. That's the other of a better adjective.
Okay.
I think I want to.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, doctor. Now let's look at the metrics. And even if we concede without agreeing that our foreign reserve has increased under Tinubu, and there's been fluctuations going up and down, are there tangible deliverables from the increase? Is there anything meaningful coming out of it? Are we just dumping money there? Is there anything? Has it affected our exchange rate? Has it affected interest rate? Has it affected the strength of our currency and all of that? What is the implication of that fluctuation on the economy?
Foreign reserves are more or less like a buffer. Okay. The economy can fall in case of any shock, any emergency. We are not supposed to be bragging with what we have in the foreign reserve. Instead, we should be bragging, this is the foreign reserve in managing the exchange rate. Since this has increased, let us assume that yes, we give it to them that they have added it significantly. Since that has happened, to manage our exchange, it's almost at and is hovering at an all-time low because the crime in Ukraine, globally, there is falling demand, and it has fallen below our budget benchmark. The benchmark that we are no longer, the prices are no longer catching up. We're also having the challenge of not meeting up with our production quota, over like 2 million a day. So how going to this exchange rate? And if we're adding to this exchange rate, what it translated in quality of life in Nigerians? And let me tell you, the reason why, yes, they have been able to give state governments some breathing space, that is where a new lease of life, was because of this abrupt end of the subsidy regime.
Okay.
But who goes further to check what is happening to the monies being given to these subnationals?
Okay.
And again, in the state, as far as subnational governments are concerned, what is happening with local government funds? Some state governments, for instance, are still encroaching into that.
All right.
Fund.
Yes, Doctor.
And that government is the closest.
Exactly. We'll get
into
all of that.
To the people.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm coming to that. We'll get into all of that because I wanted you simply answer the question even before I asked it. This increase in foreign reserve, how has it impacted on the living standard of Nigerians? And exactly what you said, we have not seen it. We don't see anything. Now, Daniel Bwala also said something about the president paying off debts he inherited from his successor. Are you aware of that? Because the only thing we see in the budget is money is earmarked for loan servicing. And the debt keeps increasing. As at last count, Nigeria has a debt exposure of 142 trillion naira. Is it 142 trillion or thereabout?
Yes, you are correct.
So which one are we paying? Are we paying debt or are we just servicing loan? Is it something that maybe you know that the
let me come in. As far as the domestic debt obligations are concerned, especially what is going on in the capital market and in the money market, the government is meeting up with its obligation at that level, which it is expected to. Okay. But looking at the international debt, the foreign debt component, it is increasing. Of recent, the World Bank just approved another loan for the country. So the more we keep borrowing, the more we are squeezing our fiscal space. So we are making it more difficult for the government to carry out other fiscal responsibilities, because the more you are borrowing, the more it has to make provision for repaying these loans. So it is eating deep into our existing funds, and you cannot keep living that way, kicking the can down the road, hoping that things will get better all of a sudden. It doesn't happen like that. And when you are using, at least I will give it to the immediate past administration to an extent, at least when they took some type of loans, they tied it to some infrastructure. But in this case, you keep still hearing this story of school feeding, this one, that one, things that are not necessarily tangible, things that are just more or less like trying to stop the bleeding instead of healing the wound. So there's that. So when they say they are repaying the debt, they should be more specific, because, like I said, those of us who are observant with what is happening in the money market and the capital market, we are aware that the government is still meeting its obligation as far as treasury bills, bonds, and the rest are concerned. Okay. But moving beyond that, what is going on as far as international debt repayment is concerned, that's a different kettle of fish. Instead, they are even increasing the loan, the money that they are borrowing from these external sources. You remember? Okay, please.
All right, thank you very much. Now let's walk back a bit, because there are so many talking points as far as these issues are concerned. You said something about the governors getting more money because of the removal of the fuel subsidy. But sometime in 2 months ago or thereabout, we had the NMPC say, look, the government, you are supposed to pay us 7.74 trillion naira, which is more like the subsidies we paid for fuel. So, Doctor, are we really out of subsidy? Because the government didn't dispute that. And the government said that they will start paying the 7.74 trillion naira sometime in November, and they gave a space of, I think, between 12 months and 2 years to pay off that 7.74 trillion. So the monies that the governors are getting as excess allocation, where is it coming from? Do you have an idea?
Well, it is coming from the declared amount. When I mean declared amount, this one is the information that they have decided to make available. The declared amount that they claimed as reported for excess revenues derivable from the subsidy removal. However, you see these subsidies, I don't want to call it a scam, but this subsidy issue is one of the most, in fact, it is so shrouded in secrecy that nobody understands what is going on in the NNPC. I was on your program not too long ago when I said that the NNPC was among the most opaque government institutions we have. Even with the commercialization, it did not improve anything in the transparency. The the Petroleum Industry Act has not really been reflected. So when the NNPC is saying that it has not been paid, remember the NNPC as a body used to appropriate funds by itself before it remits whatever is left into the national treasury. So maybe these things are what led to the dissolution or the sack of the Kiare board. But keep this one aside. I want to bring another thing to your attention. In as much as the government keeps going around with this claim that yes, it has increased the allocation to state government, which has made state governments more active, being able to carry out more capital investments beyond paying salaries and the rest of them. I want to tell you something. The value of the naira within this same period has crashed, especially with the unification of the exchange rate between, that is the official and the parallel market, that took place almost the same time with the
First
declaration of subsidy removal. Okay. So what we assumed to gain the defense subsidy removal was automatically wiped off with the exchange rate situation. So when we are brandishing these figures, we should know that they are in nominal terms.
Okay.
But when you adjust this thing for inflation, you adjust it for exchange rate differentials, you will see that we are worse off than we were before.
Okay, exactly. So I hope that people like Daniel Bwala are listening to all of this so that they know how to spin it in favor of the government. And Doctor, yes, when you say that NNPC operations are shrouded in secrecy, I bet you were more measured in trying to call the first subsidy removal or the first subsidy regime a scam or what? Is it anything less than a scam? I mean, up until this moment, we don't even know the names are behind that. So, and in the arithmetic of all of these things, are you sure that Nigerians were not the ones, that are not the ones that are actually paying government for subsidy instead of the other way around? I say that in the light of the fact that if you look at it, first subsidy was purportedly removed. And now the price of fuel moved from 220 to 660. And as at now, it's over between 860 and 1,200.
Yes.
Now, the same government comes back to tell us that, look, between June 2023, when the subsidy was removed, and September 2024, they incurred an expense of 7.74 trillion naira, which they paid as subsidy. So, in essence, is it need that Nigerians have been the one paying government subsidy, which the presidency now claims that they share to governors? Like the president the other day said that governors are receiving 3 times more than they used to receive. Is that not the money you and I pay to filling stations, which they in turn pay to the government? Are you sure it's not that we are looking at?
Because I think it is the government that is supposed to be appreciating Nigerians and not telling Nigerians to appreciate the government for what has been going on. Because I think if we take our minds back to 2012, when the Jonathan government tried to do something with subsidy and the protests that came subsequently, we saw how the government retraced its step. But this time around, from, like you just pointed out, from about 200, 180, 220, it skyrocketed to between over 1,000 and 800 naira, depending where you are buying from. No Nigerian protested. The NLC, everybody just took it in good faith, hoping that yes, the gains from this subsidy removal that has been touted as something that has been holding the country back, squeezing our finances, and enriching a few elites, that this money will be redistributed, made to trickle down to you and I. But at the end of the day, it only points to the fact that yes, we are being penalized for our quote unquote understanding, because not only did the price of fuel increase, every other thing, the multiplier effect, every other thing associated with transportation, and you know, most of our transportation is still heavily reliant on PMS and diesel. So you see that every other thing connected to these products also increased by almost the same measure. How much were we buying a bag of cement just 2 years ago? How much are we buying it today? Look at, take it, and measure it across other products. Look at the basic basket we used to measure our consumer price index, and see how most of these things, the values of these commodities have increased, and they come back to tell us that they have increased revenue, that Nigerians are better off, and all whatnot. That's a lie. Nigerians are seriously suffering. When I mean suffering, the level of hardship in their country is at unprecedented levels. So we
Okay.
should be
All right.
careful with the way we talk about these things in the
All right.
country.
All right. Now, Doctor, we need to move on. Let's look at the economic policies of this administration, starting from the local government autonomy that the administration is pushing, tax reform bills, first subsidy removal, which we have talked a bit about. Even if the policies aren't making impact at the moment, do you think that traveling these directions will open Nigeria to any good? I ask this question in the light of previous policies and programs of government that were fantastic but didn't go well due to poor implementation. Do you see us going the same way? Do you by any imagination see the political will on the part of this administration to run the full course and ensure that the benefits derivable from these policies, assuming they are in the right direction, do you see this administration with the political will to allow it to run the full course, to pursue it to a conclusion so that Nigerians can benefit from it? Is there anything in that direction that tells you that there is light at the end of the tunnel? I mean, if you have to interrogate the will of this administration to push through all these policies.
Well, it has the will to pursue policies that have biting impact, that inflict excruciating pain, and that exacerbates the hardship the Nigerians are passing through. But it is having the will to now deliver on these intentions, because it's one thing to have beautiful intentions, it's another thing to match it with actions that yield to positive results. So that is where, in fact, this is not just peculiar to this government alone. That is where Nigerians we've been having questions with our leadership. Sometimes it makes it appear as if we are just making all these pronouncements because we want to appear serious like other countries. So when they bring out the sustainable development goals, for instance, Nigeria will just rush and become one of the signatories without necessarily paying attention to how it can address our lingering development challenges that can make us to meet the SDGs, which will be expiring in less than 5 years from now. It's not enough to come out and say, oh, you come out with beautiful policies, very fantastic sounding policies, Vision 2010, Vision 2020, Vision this, Vision that, transformation agenda, renewed hope. What's the other one? 7-point agenda. It's more or less like you are just giving people the impression that, yes, in fact, what we call this thing is the psychological aspect of development. You just try to give people hope and make it look as if the government is doing something when we are yet to see the effect. Look, I want to extend this. See, when people are saying we should give this government time, this government is supposed to be a continuum of the previous government, because it is still the same political party, the same vehicle. So we instead of, I don't join those who say we should give the president 2 years. I'm joining those who assess this administration based on the platform with which it came into power. So it is supposed to be a continuation from what it inherited. So when they come and want to give us this narrative that no, it's as if we are starting afresh, then it means that they did not deliver for the past 8 years. Now, what is the government doing on security? You mentioned the subnational governments and how they are increasing the allocation to them. Who goes ahead to see that they are implementing this thing? You and I know that this Supreme Court decision or judgment that said that local government should be given financial autonomy. Many states are still, frustrating that effort? Who goes to make sure that these things are done properly? What situation like at that level of governance? Who makes sure that yes, people who contest for elections at that level, up to councillorship level, emerge through a transparent process? Is it this one that they will go ahead to do local government election and the ruling party will wipe out? We have a clean sweep of everything. Not even one councillorship provision will be left. So I beg to differ,
Okay,
honestly.
all right. Now let's look at the positions of the National Bureau of Statistics and the World Bank and the African Development Bank president, Kinwumi Adesina. Now, when World Bank or IMF speaks in favor of the government says yes. Even IMF said that look, the policies are working, you know, that they should be sustained. But on the flip side, if the same IMF or World Bank says, look, I mean, the future is grim and all of that, Nigerians tend to differ, like depending on whose side you are, which was your opening comment when we started this intervention. Now, let's look at the National Bureau of Statistics, which is Nigerian own sovereign agency. Sometime you mentioned when they said that 75 million people, you know, were disposed to poverty. At a point, it became 133 million Nigerians that are multidimensionally poor in terms of education, in terms of security, in terms of health, and in terms of standard of living. I think these are the key indices that are used to measure multidimensional poverty across board globally. Now, let's bring it home to NBS, saying that, look, by June 2025, that 136 or 137 million Nigerians will face acute hunger. Now, when we hear these things, government says no. You recall what happened the other time when the NBS released figures about billions of naira that were paid as ransom by kidnapped Nigerians. And the moment that came out, the NSA, the DG of the Director General of NBS was invited by DSS and all of that. And very quickly, they pulled down that report from their website. So in all of this, why is it that there is this kind of selective rejection of figures when it favors the government and when it goes against the government? So at what point should on who should we rely to get accurate figure for the econometrics of Nigeria? Where should we get that information from? Is it from the NBS, Nigerian Own Sovereign Agency? Is it from the World Bank and IMF, Bretton Woods institutions, or is it from the African Development Bank, of which a Nigerian is the president? And the man has also been aiding Nigeria. I think they advanced a loan of was it a loan or a grant of $627 million about 2 weeks ago. I bet this man just said, look, Nigerians are better off than they were in 1960. Nigerians are better off in 1960 than they are today. And the presidency is saying, no, you don't say that. It is not right and all of that. Dr. Ekesiobi, you said something about it, but I want you to extrapolate. I want you to expand it. Between then and now, consider everything for the 4 million Nigerians in 1960 and 230 million Nigerians in 2025. Where will you situate all of that? Standard of living. Has it gone up or has it taken a nosedive?
Sorry, this is crazy. It's crazy when we have a government that is trying to bastardize almost every institution we have. Because I see no reason why. You mentioned the other report the MBS released and later went to delete. You see, and then you see the MBS trying his best to mend figures in a way that will not make the country look so bad, or maybe achieve one agenda or the other for the government. Look at what is happening in the United States, where the president is having issues with the central bank governor. But the president is saying this is because the central bank, the Federal Reserve over there, has some level of autonomy. The president can only say whatever he wants to say to an extent, but the institution has the backing to stand and withstand all this unnecessary interference. But we cannot say the same thing for Nigeria, where for you to even get appointment into these institutions, they are not done objectively. Instead, they are done based on other consideration outside it. So how then do we come to Nigeria? Look, I was telling somebody the other day that it is only in Nigeria that when we come like this, we begin to measure aggregate national income, GDP, just like that, without having the corresponding GDP at the state level. Because normally it is what the states, what you report as the state GDP is what is supposed to be aggregated to give you the national GDP. But here we don't have that thing. So where do this national data originate from? These are data integrity issues that the NBS up to today has failed to give us, answers to. So when you come and you say that they are trying to polish figures on this, look, I'm among those who believe that yes, in as much as this consumer price index that we did the other time, we rebase the CPI, the CPI we rebased the other day.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, in as much as we did that, trying to make it look as if we want to make our CPI more recent, it still is trying to hide the problem of inflation, because using the most recent value doesn't tell much. Mr. Chukuma, if I want to compare you with a previous version of yourself, I will not use the version of last year, because the version for last year and this year won't show any significant change. I will compare you with maybe 5 years ago. Then maybe that time you were not as bad as you are now, or something like that. There must be a difference that we show. So what they just did to me, I know that yes, they tried to present it as officially as possible, but it had some other intentions written all over it. Look at the way we rebased our, what do we call that thing again? Unemployment. Our unemployment that was almost pursuing 40%. All of a sudden became 4 point something, 3 point something. And we said that we reworked the metrics, we did this and that. All these things the National Bureau of Statistics is doing, is it what they are supposed to be doing? These things are not what basically should concern them. It should concern them. Yes, it is part of their duty to rebase our GDP, our macroeconomic indicators, no doubt. But we shouldn't be doing it so comprehensively and so suddenly. Maybe to achieve something else that we are not aware of.
Okay.
So these institutions, we need to begin to call out these institutions in terms of the data integrity, especially the National Bureau of Statistics that is giving us. Because the National Bureau, the World Bank you mentioned, and the African Development Bank, let me tell you, they have more experts than we claim to have. So, and again, when they want to conduct these surveys, they use local experts. You and I. Yes, I was once, the last survey, the World Health Organization and which other people, we were part of it. So it's not as if they come there, they sit down in Washington and write these results. It is still Nigerian experts they consult to help them carry out these surveys.
All right.
So whatever result they bring out is not so far from the truth.
Okay. All right. Now, Doctor, there's something I would like for us to interrogate here. You said something about putting together local data, to now make a whole, like what we call the gross domestic product of the country, the GDP. Now, talking about local data from the states, a lot of people are blaming the governors. The governors, you are getting more money, the governors, you are doing enough, governors, you are that. And I keep asking, looks like a lot of us understand that the problems are layered. We don't try to exonerate the governors, from blame. But what we are saying is that there are certain things that are at the macroeconomic level that essentially belong to the sovereign, which is the state, the Nigerian state, like the central government. Like, is there anything that the governors can do to influence the exchange rate of the naira to the dollar, the naira to the euro, the naira to the British pound? Is there anything that the subnationals can do to influence the interest rate, which comes from the monetary policy of the central bank? Is there anything that the state governments can do to affect the balance of trade? Is there anything that the state governments can do at their level? I'm mentioning the metric that we use to measure the macroeconomic policies to determine, how the economy functions. At those levels, is there anything that you think that the state governments can do specifically to influence the exchange rate, the interest rate, and the balance of trade? Is there?
I think the first thing is our system is not built to be competitive. Our system is built to be dependent in the
Okay.
sense that at the end of every month, all state governments go cap in hand to Abuja to go and get federal allocation. That way, with that kind of a psyche, you cannot expect them to contribute meaningfully to economic policies that will affect these macroeconomic indicators that you have mentioned.
Okay.
Exchange rate, interest rate, trade export, and the rest of them. Our state government should be made to be more productive. It is not enough going about carrying out white elephant projects, that you are building flyovers, that you are doing this. Flyovers are good. Infrastructure helps in accelerating development, no doubt. But take the infrastructure down to where they are needed, in rural areas, in productive zones, in, crowding private investments. Make this thing we keep talking about, creating the enabling environment. We should go beyond paying lip service to this kind of conversations. And governments, state governments, it is possible for great governments to set up what they call this thing again, industrial park, industrial clusters, zones, productive zones. Encourage these people, bring out funds to sponsor, young entrepreneurs, people who will drive productivity. They tell you that they come up and tell you SMEs are the key drivers of the economy in terms of output, in terms of employment, and the rest of them. How do we go beyond just gathering 2,000 youths in one corner and giving them money to go and learn how to make soap, how to do this, how to do that? No, productivity goes beyond that, goes beyond subsistence level of production. So we should be more, the state government should be made to be more competitive.
Okay.
How then do they should be made to be engaging themselves. In fact, I was talking to somebody the other day on how can our state governments come together, maybe as we have geopolitical zones, for instance, carry out projects that cost across their states. For instance, interstate rail network, for instance, linking people, commodities, and this in record time. Okay. How can they take infrastructure to the rural? In fact, where I can only exonerate state governments as far as the lapses in economic policy and economic growth in the country is concerned is only in the area of security, because in the area of security, many of them are handicapped. Okay. And that's why we keep hammering on the issue of state police.
The subnationals have a very big role to play in what
very big role to play down to the local governments.
Okay.
Yes, local governments.
All right, we are coasting home now, Doctor. Let's leave economics. Let's talk a little bit of politics. Now, the president's spokesperson, Bayo Onanuga, said that Dr. Adesina spoke in the mode of a politician like Peter Obi, who puts out figures that are not verifiable. If you have followed the careers of these two men, Peter Obi and Adesina, is there anything they have said in the past that are within the realm of fallacies, that are incorrect, or what about the economy taking a nosedive, about Nigerians being better off like 25 years ago or 60 years ago, or all of that? Nigerians are also saying, Adesina is saying all of this because he is interested in running for presidency. So he needs to put Nigeria down and now use that pedestal to climb. What's your reaction to this statement, this comment coming from the presidential spokesperson? And what on earth is Peter Obi doing within this mix? Why is Peter Obi's name coming here?
You see, the government of the day is not comfortable with opposition remarks. But strangely, they forget that a viable opposition is what makes democracy thrive. So the government should be accommodating. In fact, you should be worried when the opposition is silent, because it's the opposition that keeps the government of the day on its toes, making them to deliver. So when the opposition is saying something, it's indirectly a pointer to where maybe you may need to give paramount attention. So when they say these things, I laugh. Assuming Adesina came and said something flowery about the government, something commending in the government, they may not be speaking this way. And for them to put Adesina in the same bracket with Peter Obi shows you that they have already sidelined certain people as the people they see as troublemakers of the government.
And it's so unfortunate that he doesn't welcome this kind of criticism, especially from somebody who is spearheading a multinational and a non-partisan institution like the African Development Bank, which I may add has more experts, more access to information, data than the federal government can think of. So when he's saying this thing, there may be some background information that inform this kind of remarks. So it is something that in fact, I will query the government strategy team, the think tank, for not going behind to find a way to have an audience with Adesina and ask him what is this, because going by his antecedents, this man is always somebody who is very passionate about not just Nigeria but Africa. With the high fives initiative he introduced, which has taken, we have made significant strides in pursuing development across Africa. So when somebody like that, who has such international repute, says something like that, I don't think the government of the day should begin to query it or begin to react in the way they react to a normal politician.
Okay.
I can say Peter Obi, yes, he is a politician, no doubt. No matter how best he tries to make himself not appear so, but he's a politician.
Okay.
So, but when you say Adesina, it's laughable, please.
Okay, quite laughable. Now, Doctor, one last question before we leave, and I would like for you to put together your concluding thoughts while answering this question. Now, going forward, do you expect that Nigeria will do better with the present economic team of the president? Does he need to change them? Does he need a rejig of the team? Or do you think that the problem is is more like a case of systemic lack of foundation to do what is right? Is the problem from the system or is the problem from the team?
When you say the team, I want to cast your mind back to the immediate past administration.
Okay.
The president ran this country for 6 years without an economic advisor. It was, I think, somewhere in the 7th year of administration that I appointed Salami. So, okay, who was advising the government on the economic policy remarks or statements or pronouncements it was doing in this? What they tell you as the bank is good to see that the central bank team and the Federal are working to be working in when they statement. That is a plus for the government, no doubt, or like what you have in the central bank governor with and the federal minister is not aware and creating some sort of chaos. Beyond it, whether we actually, not as economists, econometric technique, population, equilibrium modeling, and they to test run this policy, whatever works and how the likely effects it can have on the economy before we introducing them.
Okay.
But when you see policy initiated by the government, you'll be wondering, did they carry out any analysis before bringing out this thing, or we working with client?
Okay, so Doctor, final word. If you look into the future, if you had an economic crystal ball, what do you see? Is it bright or is it grim? Which one?
It's very gloomy.
Very gloomy.
It's very gloomy.
Quite unfortunate.
Our population is increasing. The fiscal obligation is increasing, and Nigerians are already in despair.
All right.
So it's as if we are an economic mess. But economics doesn't work with careful planning.
Okay. All right.
So I just hope that just like the MF forecast that downgraded our growth rate, I just hope that these people, economic, do not just watch alone, but they are taking measures to forestall the
unpleasant consequences. Oh well, this is where we wrap up the show. Big thanks to you, Dr. Chukwunonso Ekesobi, an economic consultant and teacher at Emeka Odumegwu Ojukwu University. Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu University in Anambra State. Yes. We appreciate your presence on Political Lens. Thank you very much for coming.
It's a pleasure.
All right. On behalf of the backroom staff, the technical director, Victor Igris, the bus engineer, Ikechukwu Ezema, the ingest man, Alex, and the sound engineer, Jerry, I am Chukwuma Okoro. And up next is Issues with Jerry Apollo High. Stay with us and don't go away.